The voicemail icon blinked at me like a tiny accusation. Unknown number. I pressed play, and my mother's voice filled my office for the first time in 7 years. Avery, sweetheart, it's Mom. I. We need to talk. Please call back when you can. The sweetness in her tone made my stomach turn. I'm Avery Weaver, and the last time my mother used that voice, she was telling my father I was too aggressive for wanting to go to law school instead of getting married like a normal girl. I deleted the message and turned back to my case files. The corner office of my law firm offered a perfect view of downtown, a daily reminder of everything I'd built without them. My phone buzzed again. Zuriel, my paralegal and closest friend, was calling through the intercom. Avery, your father's online too. Send it to voicemail. He says it's urgent. Everything's urgent with Fred, I muttered, but picked up anyway. This is Avery. Princess? My father's booming voice hadn't changed. How's my girl? What do you want, Fred? A pause. Can't a father check on his daughter? 7 years of silence suggests otherwise. I kept my tone professionally detached. I'm in the middle of prep for court, so we need to see you, he cut in. Your mother and I, we have a situation. I laughed, short and sharp. I charge $500 an hour for situations. This is family, princess. Family? The word tasted bitter. Like when you paid for Quentin's MBA while I worked 3 jobs to afford law school? That was different. Your brother needed. My receptionist will be happy to schedule a consultation. Standard rates apply. I hung up before he could respond. Zuriel appeared in my doorway, concern etched on her face. You okay? Perfect. I straightened my blazer. Just the past trying to crawl back through my caller ID. Speaking of, Zuriel grimaced. They're here. What? Your parents. Lobby. Designer bags. Looking nervous. I stood, smoothing my skirt. Tell security. Avery. Zuriel's dark eyes met mine. Maybe hear them out? Sometimes the universe hands you exactly what you've been waiting for. The memory hit me like a punch, sitting at our mahogany dining table watching my parents beam as they handed Quentin a check for business school. We believe in you, son, Dad had said. Mom had squeezed his shoulder when I mentioned my law school acceptance. Mom had whispered to Dad, thinking I couldn't hear. She's too aggressive, always has to prove something. I'd left that night and never looked back. Send them up, I told Zuriel, but stay close. 5 minutes later, they walked into my office like ghosts from a life I'd buried. Mom, perfectly coiffed but with new worry lines around her mouth. Dad, his confident stride slightly less certain. They looked smaller somehow. Avery, Mom breathed, stepping forward for a hug I didn't offer. You look so professional. That's what happens when you work for a living. I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. Please, sit. They perched like uncertain birds, exchanging glances. Dad cleared his throat. Princess, we have a little problem. So I gathered. It's the house, Mom burst out. The bank, they're trying to take it. Something about a failed investment partnership with Quentin's latest venture, but it's all a misunderstanding. My phone buzzed. A text from Quentin. The X for doing this, sis. I set the phone face down. Let me be clear. If you want my help, this is a professional relationship. I'll need a detailed account of the situation, all relevant documents, and my standard retainer. Retainer? Dad's face reddened. We're family. Family. I pulled out my fee agreement. Like when you told me I was on my own for college because it builds character, right before buying Quentin that startup trip to Bali. Mom's eyes filled with tears. You're being cruel. No, I said, sliding the paper across my desk. $25,000 retainer. Standard hourly rates apply. Take it or leave it. The door burst open. Quentin stood there, designer suit rumpled, face flushed. Are you seriously charging our parents? God, you're still just jealous that they loved me more, aren't you? I met his gaze steadily, feeling something cold and satisfied settle in my chest. No, Quentin, I'm just not saving you anymore. The silence that followed was worth every penny of that retainer. Let's discuss this like adults, I said, gesturing for Quentin to sit. He remained standing, arms crossed, while our parents shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. The retainer stays, I continued, pulling out my legal pad. Now tell me exactly what happened with this investment partnership. It's nothing serious. Quentin waved his hand dismissively. Just some paperwork mix up with my latest startup. These investors are being dramatic. The bank is foreclosing on their house, I cut in. That's beyond dramatic. What did you do? Mom jumped in, her voice honey sweet. Sweetheart, your brother had this wonderful opportunity, an app that would revolutionize social media marketing. The investors were very impressed. How much? I interrupted. Dad cleared his throat. The initial investment was substantial. Numbers, Fred. 2 million, Quentin said, but the potential return was. And the house was collateral? I kept my voice level, professional. They exchanged glances. My phone buzzed again, another text from Quentin. Come on, sis, don't be difficult. Just fix this. The investors required certain guarantees, Dad admitted. But Quentin assured us. Did you read the paperwork before signing? Silence. Of course they did, Quentin snapped. Dad's not an idiot. I pulled out a document from my drawer, their mortgage history I'd quickly pulled up. Really? Because according to this, there have been 3 refinancing attempts in the past year alone. Care to explain? Mom's perfectly maintained facade cracked slightly. We needed to help with some cash flow issues. You mean bail out his failed ventures? I looked directly at Quentin. How many times have they rescued you? You don't understand business, he sneered. Sometimes you need to take risks with other people's money and homes. I stood up, walking to my window. The retainer is non negotiable. I'll also need every document related to the investment, the partnership agreement, and all communication with the bank. $25,000? Mom's voice trembled. Avery, that's we're your family. Funny how that word only matters when you need something from me. I turned back to face them. 7 years, Mom. 7 years of silence while I built this career you said I'd never succeed in. Now you want my help? These are my terms. Dad stood up, his face red. This is ridiculous. We supported you. When? I challenged. When I was sleeping on friends' couches during law school? When I had to work 3 jobs to afford my bar exam prep? Or maybe when I graduated top of my class and none of you showed up? Quentin rolled his eyes. Here we go with the pity party. Shut up, I snapped. The only reason you're even in this room is because they're still cleaning up your messes. How's that MBA working out for you? The silence was deafening. Mom dabbed at her eyes with an expensive handkerchief. You're being cruel. No, I'm being professional. Sign the retainer agreement, pay the fee, and I'll help. Otherwise, there's the door. Dad reached for his checkbook with shaking hands. This isn't how family treats family. You taught me everything I know about family, Fred. As they filled out the paperwork, Zuriel appeared in the doorway. Avery, your 4 o'clock is here. We'll need more time, Quentin protested. My time is valuable, I replied, gathering their signed documents. I'll review these and be in touch. Zuriel will show you out. As they filed out, Mom turned back. Avery, please, can't we just start fresh? Be a family again? I met her gaze steadily. We are being a family, Mom. This is exactly how you taught me family works, through conditions and transactions. After they left, Zuriel lingered. That was intense. It was necessary. I sat back down, already pulling up foreclosure precedents on my computer. You know, this isn't just about legal fees, she said quietly. No, I agreed, thinking of all the years of favoritism, of being the difficult daughter, of watching Quentin fail upward while I clawed my way to success. It's about justice. My phone buzzed one final time. Quentin again. You think you're so perfect now with your fancy office, but we both know you're still that angry little girl who was never good enough. I smiled, remembering all the times they'd called me too aggressive. They were about to learn exactly how aggressive I could be. Zuriel, I called out. Get me everything you can find on Quentin's last 3 failed startups. Every document, every investor, every dollar. It's time to show my family exactly what their favorite child has been up to. The game was on, and this time I was making the rules. The documents spread across my desk told a story of spectacular failure. 3 startups, $2 million, and a trail of financial destruction that led straight to my parents' front door. But it was the signature on the refinancing papers that made me sit up straight. Zuriel, I called out, come look at this. She leaned over my shoulder, frowning at the document. That's your father's signature, but the dates don't match. I pointed to the notary stamp. Dad was in Florida that week. I remember because mom posted their vacation photos all over Facebook. You think Quentin forged it? Absolutely. I sat back, a cold satisfaction settling in my chest. Pull everything we have on signature forgery precedents. My phone rang. Zuriel's expression told me who it was before I checked the caller ID. Hello, Jocelyn. Avery. My old law school rival's voice dripped with false warmth. When I saw your name on the opposing counsel documents, I couldn't believe it. Representing your own family? That's brave. Just doing my job. Really? Because I remember you in law school, always trying to prove yourself. Always so angry? She paused. This case might get dirty. Hope you're as good as law school claimed. I ended the call without responding. Zuriel raised an eyebrow. Jocelyn Shaw, I explained. Opposing counsel. The one who said I'd never make it? Yeah. I stood up, grabbing my coat. Let's get lunch. I need to think. At our usual diner, over coffee and sandwiches, Zuriel finally spoke what had been bothering her. This isn't just about saving your parents' house anymore, is it? It never was. Avery? She leaned forward. I get it. They hurt you. But revenge. Remember when I was 16? I cut her off. Dad grounded me for missing curfew by 15 minutes. That same week, Quentin crashed the family car while drunk. Want to know what happened? What? Dad covered for him. Told the insurance company a deer ran into the road. I stirred my coffee absently. Mom said they had to protect his future. Meanwhile, I lost my summer job because I couldn't drive there anymore. That's messed up, but. Or how about when Quentin's first startup failed? They refinanced their house to bail him out. Didn't even tell me until months later when mom casually mentioned they couldn't help with my law school applications because they were a little tight right now. I understand wanting justice, Zuriel said softly, but this feels like my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hey sis, it's Kylie. Can we talk? Privately? Quentin's wife. Now that was interesting. I have to go, I told Zuriel, throwing some cash on the table. Meeting in 20 minutes. Avery, she caught my arm. This isn't justice anymore. You're looking for revenge. Maybe they're the same thing. I met Kylie at a coffee shop across town. She looked expensive but tired, her designer purse clutched like a shield. Thanks for meeting me, she said, glancing around nervously. Quentin doesn't know I'm here. What's going on, Kylie? I found something. She pulled out a folder, hands shaking slightly. Bank statements. He's been gambling, online mostly, but she swallowed hard. He's used our joint accounts, our savings, everything. I opened the folder. The numbers were worse than I'd imagined. That's not all, she continued, voice barely above a whisper. I think I think he forged your dad's signature on some documents. And mine too. Why are you telling me this? Her perfectly made up face crumpled slightly. Because I want out. And because she met my eyes. Because you were right about him. All those years when we treated you like you were the problem, you were the only one who saw him clearly. My phone buzzed again, an email from Jocelyn. Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Bring your game face, Avery. This isn't law school anymore. I looked back at Kylie. I'll need copies of everything. Will you help me? I'll help you tell the truth, I replied. That's all I can promise. Walking back to my office, I thought about what Zuriel said about revenge versus justice, but as I reviewed Kylie's documents, another email popped up, this one from my mother. Darling, I know you're angry, but please remember he's your brother. Family protects family. That's what we taught you. I smiled grimly at the screen. No, Mom, I muttered. You taught me that family protects Quentin. Now I'm teaching a different lesson entirely. The pieces were falling into place. Tomorrow, Jocelyn would learn exactly how good I'd become since law school, and my family, they were about to learn the true cost of their choices. The affidavit sat on my desk like a loaded gun. Every detail, every forged signature, every misappropriated dollar, all documented in cold, legal precision. One signature from my father would make it official, implicating both him and Quentin in misleading investors. The knock on my office door was sharp, angry. Fred didn't wait for my response before barging in. What is this? He slapped the draft affidavit on my desk. You want me to sign a confession? I want you to tell the truth, I replied calmly. Unless you prefer perjury? This will destroy your brother's career. What career? I stood up, matching his intensity. The string of failed startups? The gambling? The forged documents? His face reddened. You're twisting things. Am I? I pulled out Kylie's bank statements. These are facts, Fred. Numbers don't lie, even when your golden boy does. You've always been jealous of him. I laughed, sharp and cold. Jealous? Of what? His ability to fail upward while you clean up his messes? We're your family. No, I said quietly. You're his family. I'm just the lawyer you hired when everything fell apart. The door opened again, Mom this time, wearing her best concerned mother expression. Avery, sweetheart, she started, but I cut her off. Did you know about the gambling? She faltered. Quentin was under a lot of pressure. Did you know he forged Dad's signature? He must have had his reasons. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop defending him. For once in your life, look at what he's actually done. Dad slumped into a chair, suddenly looking every bit his age. What do you want from us? The truth, in writing, or I walk away and let Jocelyn Shaw tear you apart in court. You'd do that? Mom's voice cracked. To your own parents? You taught me well, I replied. Family is business, right? Well, this is business. A knock at the door. Zerial. Sorry to interrupt, but Mrs. Norton is here. Kylie walked in, looking nervous but determined. I brought the rest of the documents you asked for. Mom's face went pale. Kylie, what are you doing here? Telling the truth, she replied, not meeting their eyes. Something this family should have done years ago. I took the new files from her. Thank you, Kylie. Zuriel will get your statement. After they left, Mom tried a different approach. Remember when you were little? You used to follow Quentin everywhere. You adored him. Until I realized he could do no wrong and I could do no right. That's not true. We loved you both. Really? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through old texts. Let's see. When I made law review. That's nice, dear, but did you hear about Quentin's new business idea? When I passed the bar. Oh, we can't make the celebration. Quentin needs us at his investor meeting. When I made partner. Stop it, Dad interrupted. Just stop. Sign the affidavit, I said. Or find another lawyer. You're turning against your own blood, he accused. No, I'm finally seeing it clearly. I stood up. You have until tomorrow morning to decide. After they left, I worked late into the night, reviewing documents until my eyes burned. Around midnight, my office door opened again. Mom? I blinked in surprise. How did you get in? The security guard remembered me. She sat down, looking smaller without her usual armor of designer clothes and perfect makeup. We need to talk. Everything I needed to say was in that affidavit. You were always so cold, she said softly. So hard? Not like Quentin. He needed us more. No, I corrected. He took more. There's a difference. He's your brother, and I was your daughter. The words hung in the air between us. But that never seemed to matter as much, did it? She reached for her purse, pulling out an old photo. I found this yesterday. Remember this day? I did. My high school graduation. Before everything fell apart. Before I learned that love in my family came with conditions I could never meet. Sign the affidavit, Mom, or stop wasting my time. She stood up slowly. You really have become cold. No, I said. I've become exactly what you made me. After she left, I opened my laptop to find an email from Quentin. Found something interesting about Dad's old business loans. Want to make a deal? I smiled grimly. The golden child was finally showing his true colors. Let him try his games. I'd learned from the best after all. I'd learned from them. Tomorrow would bring either truth or consequences. Either way, I was ready. You need to see this, Zuriel said, bursting into my office early the next morning. She dropped a stack of emails on my desk. Found these in the archived server. Your mother knew about the reverse mortgage. I scanned the emails, my jaw tightening. There it was in black and white. Mom actively advising Quentin to hide the mortgage from Dad to buy more time for his startup. The golden child's kingdom is crumbling, I muttered just as my phone rang. Quentin, have you checked your email? His voice was smug. Those business loans Dad took out in '95? Not exactly clean. Blackmailing our father now? Just evening the playing field, sis. Drop the affidavit, or Dad's past comes to light. I laughed. You really don't get it, do you? I don't care about protecting anyone anymore. Mom's invited everyone to dinner tonight, he continued as if I hadn't spoken. Time to fix this mess as a family. Pass? Not a request, sis. 7 o'clock. Don't be late. Before I could respond, another call came through. Gus, my old mentor from my first law firm. Heard you're going after your own family, he said without preamble. Word travels fast. Remember what I told you about revenge? That it's best served with detailed documentation and multiple witnesses. Avery, his voice softened, I watched you fight your way up from nothing, but vengeance carried too far poisons everything, including the victor. This isn't about revenge, I lied. It's about justice. Is it? He paused. Come have coffee with me. 1 hour. At our old meeting spot, Gus looked exactly the same. Rumpled suit, kind eyes, brutal honesty. You're the only person outside my family who knew what I went through, I said, stirring my coffee. Which is why I'm telling you, this path you're on, it ends in ashes. They deserve it. Probably, he agreed. But do you deserve what it'll do to you? My phone buzzed. Mom again. Please come tonight. We need to talk as a family. Gus saw the message. Go, he said, but remember, you can win the battle and still lose yourself. The family home looked exactly the same. Perfect lawn, perfect facade, perfectly hidden rot beneath. Mom answered the door in her hostess best. Darling, we're all in the dining room. Everyone was there, Dad looking tired, Quentin lounging with false confidence, Kylie rigid with tension, even Zuriel had been invited, sitting awkwardly near the end. One big happy family, Quentin raised his wine glass. Just like old times. Sign the affidavit yet, Dad? I asked sweetly. Mom's smile tightened. We're here to talk, not fight. Really? I pulled out my phone, displaying her emails about the mortgage. Like how you talked to Quentin about hiding financial decisions from Dad? The color drained from her face. Dad turned to her sharply. What? It wasn't like that, she stammered. Quentin needed help. Quentin always needs help, I cut in, and you always give it, no matter who it hurts. You're just jealous, Quentin slurred, already on his second glass. Estranged but ambitious Avery, always trying to prove something. When will you just let the past go? Mom pleaded. I stood up slowly. The past? You mean like how you let go of Quentin's DUIs, his failed businesses, his gambling? That's enough! Dad slammed his hand on the table. No, it's not. Kylie spoke up suddenly. She's right. You've all been enabling him for years. Quentin's face darkened. Shut up, Kylie. Make me, she challenged. I've got nothing left to lose. You gambled it all away, remember? The room erupted into chaos, accusations, denials, years of buried truths bursting to the surface. Through it all, I remained standing, watching my family's carefully constructed facade crumble. Enough! Mom's voice cracked like a whip. Avery, please, can't we just start fresh? Let the past go? I looked around the table, at Dad's guilty face, Mom's desperate eyes, Quentin's drunken sneer, at Kylie's quiet determination and Zuriel's concerned watchfulness. The past isn't the problem, I said quietly. It's the present. It's who you all still are. And who are you? Quentin mocked. The righteous avenger? I smiled, cold and clear. No, I'm the daughter you taught to never back down. Tomorrow I file everything, the affidavit, the fraud evidence, Kylie's statements, all of it. You'll destroy this family? Mom whispered. No, I replied, heading for the door. You did that years ago. I'm just making it official. Behind me, the chaos resumed, but I walked out steady and sure. Gus was right. This would end in ashes. But sometimes that's what it takes to build something new. I wasn't done with that dinner. Not yet. The next morning, I walked back into their house. uninvited this time, carrying a simple black frame. Avery? Mom looked up from her coffee, startled. What are you? I placed the frame on the dining room table, right where we'd sat last night. My law school graduation photo stared up at us. Empty seats where family should have been, me alone in my cap and gown. Sit down, I said. Both of you. Dad appeared in the doorway, drawn by our voices. Princess, this isn't. Sit. Down. They did, looking uncomfortable as I remained standing. You want to talk about the past? I gestured to the photo. Let's talk. Where were you that day? Mom fidgeted with her coffee cup. Quentin had an important investor meeting. In Bali, I finished. I remember the Facebook posts. Beautiful resort. Must have been crucial business. Your brother's future was at stake, Dad defended weakly. And mine wasn't. I pulled out my phone, reading from old texts. Sorry, honey, can't make it. You understand, right? Quentin needs us. Every milestone, every achievement, every single time I needed you, Quentin needed you more. We thought you were stronger, Mom whispered. More independent. No. I leaned forward, hands flat on the table. You thought I was worth less. The front door opened. Quentin, looking hungover but still arrogant. Family meeting without me? Perfect timing, I said. Come see what I brought. He glanced at the photo, snorting. Still playing the victim? Still playing the entitled brat, I countered. How's the gambling going? Still using Mom's credit cards? His face went rigid. Mom gasped. What? Oh, they didn't know that part? I smiled coldly. Show them your statements, Quentin. Show them how you've been funding your poker habit. You little. He started forward, but Dad grabbed his arm. Is it true? Dad demanded. Quentin's silence was answer enough. I have a new deal, I announced, pulling out fresh papers. A full admission of responsibility from all of you, or I take everything to court. The fraud, the gambling, the forged signatures, everything. You can't prove. Quentin started. Kylie already signed her statement. I cut him off. She's very thorough with documentation. Mom began to cry, soft theatrical sobs that used to make me feel guilty. Not anymore. Why are you doing this? She pleaded. Because you taught me that family means protecting Quentin at all costs. Well, I learned. Now you'll protect him by telling the truth, or I'll destroy him in court. You're bluffing, Quentin sneered. I pulled out my phone, dialing. Jocelyn? Yes, I'm ready to file those documents we discussed, unless my family has something to say. Dad's shoulders slumped. What do you want us to sign? Everything, I said. The truth about the mortgage, the forged signatures, the gambling. Sign it all. This will ruin me, Quentin protested. You did that yourself, I replied. I'm just making it official. As they read through the documents, Mom tried one last time. We loved you, Avery. We just loved him more, I finished. Sign. One by one, they did. Even Quentin, his hand shaking with rage or withdrawal or both. As I gathered the papers, he stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. He'll never forgive you, Mom said quietly. I forgave him for years, I replied. Look where that got us. Dad stood up slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. We failed you. Yes, I agreed. You did. I picked up the graduation photo, studying it one last time before placing it on their mantel. Keep this. Remember what it cost you. What happens now? Mom asked. Now? I file these papers. The bank gets their confession. Quentin faces the consequences of his actions. And you, I looked around the perfect house that had never felt like home. You live with your choices. As I reached the door, Dad called out, Princess, are we still family? I turned back one last time. We're what you made us, Fred. Nothing more, nothing less. Outside, Zuriel was waiting in my car. You okay? No, I admitted, but I'm done. My phone buzzed. Quentin. I'll countersue. I'll tell them everything about Dad's old deals. I showed Zuriel the message. She raised an eyebrow. What are you going to do? Let him, I said, starting the car. Sometimes the truth needs to burn everything down before anything new can grow. We drove away from the house, leaving behind the perfect lawn, the perfect facade, and the family that had never really been mine. Sometimes victory tastes like ashes. Sometimes that's exactly what you need. The courthouse hallway buzzed with tension. My parents sat on one bench, Quentin on another, as far apart as possible. Kylie stood near my office's legal team, clutching a folder of bank statements. Jocelyn paced nearby, shooting me calculating glances. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Martinez looked over her glasses at our assembled group. Quite the family affair we have here. Your Honor, Jocelyn stepped forward. The bank is prepared to. Actually, I interrupted, standing. We have new evidence to present. I approached the bench with the signed confessions. Jocelyn's eyes widened as she read over my shoulder. These were signed yesterday, I explained. Full admissions of responsibility, including details of forged documents and misappropriated funds. The judge studied the papers. Mr. Weaver, she addressed Quinton, these allegations are serious. It's all lies, he sputtered. They were coerced. Were they? Judge Martinez turned to my father. Sir? Dad stood slowly. No, Your Honor. We signed willingly. Everything in those documents is true. Quentin's face contorted. Dad, what are you doing? Telling the truth, Dad replied quietly. Finally. Jocelyn cleared her throat. Given these new developments, the bank is willing to negotiate terms with the senior Weavers, provided Mr. Quentin Weaver accepts full responsibility for the fraudulent activities. This is ridiculous, Quentin exploded. Mom, tell them. But Mom sat silent, staring at her hands. I have additional evidence. Kylie stepped forward, voice shaking but determined. Bank statements showing systematic misuse of funds, including gambling transactions and unauthorized transfers. Quinton lunged toward her. You backstabbing? Order! Judge Martinez's gavel cracked like a gunshot. Mr. Weaver, control yourself or I'll have you removed. I remained calm, methodically laying out the evidence. Your Honor, we propose the following. My parents will sell their house and downsize, using the equity to partially satisfy the bank's claims. Quinton will declare bankruptcy and face the consequences of his actions. The bank will drop all claims against my parents once the property is sold. You're destroying me, Quinton hissed. No, I replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. I just stopped saving you. The judge reviewed the proposals. Miss Shaw? Jocelyn nodded reluctantly. The bank accepts these terms. Very well. Judge Martinez looked at each family member in turn. I'm approving this settlement. Mr. Weaver, given the evidence of fraud, you'll be hearing from the district attorney's office. As the gavel fell, Quinton stormed out, shoving past Zuriel at the door. Mom started to follow, but stopped, torn between her children once again. Don't! Dad touched her arm. Let him go. I gathered my papers, avoiding their eyes, but Dad approached anyway. Princess, he said softly, what you did today was necessary. Yes, he agreed, surprising me. It was. We should have done it years ago. Mom joined us, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. Will you ever forgive us? That's not what this was about. Then what was it about? She asked. Justice, I said. Truth. Everything you taught me didn't matter when it came to Quentin. Kylie approached cautiously. Thank you, she whispered, for helping me tell the truth. You did that yourself, I told her. I just gave you the platform. As people filed out, Jocelyn caught my arm. You've changed since law school. Had to, I replied. You were right back then. I was angry. Still am. But now I know how to use it. Outside the courthouse, Zuriel waited by my car. You okay? I watched my family leave, Dad and Mom supporting each other, Kylie walking tall and alone, no sign of Quentin. Years of lies and favoritism finally exposed to the light. I don't know, I answered honestly. My phone buzzed one last time. Quentin, you destroyed me. Happy now? I showed Zuriel the message. She squeezed my arm. Are you? No, I said, surprising myself. But I'm free. As we drove away, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked different somehow, older maybe, or just clearer. The angry daughter was still there, but something else too. Something that understood that sometimes justice feels like loss, even when it's right. Where to? Zuriel asked. Office, I replied. I have other clients who need me. She smiled. Back to work already? Always. I straightened my shoulders. It's what I do best. The courthouse shrank in my mirror, taking with it the last remnants of the family I'd once desperately wanted to please. Ahead lay my own path. Not perfect, not easy, but mine. Sometimes victory tastes like ashes, but from ashes, new things grow. The real estate sign came down today. I watched from my car as the new owners toured what used to be my childhood home, a young couple excited about their first house, unaware of the history embedded in those walls. You didn't have to come, Zuriel said from the passenger seat. Yes, I did. Mom and Dad had already moved to their small condo across town. Quentin was somewhere in Arizona, according to his last angry email. Kylie had filed for divorce and started her own business. My phone buzzed, a text from Dad. House is officially sold. Thank you for handling the paperwork. Want to go in? Zuriel asked. One last time? I shook my head, but found myself walking up the familiar path anyway. The new owners were just leaving, and the realtor recognized me. Ms. Weaver, perfect timing. Just need your signature on these final documents. Inside, the house echoed emptily. My graduation photo was gone from the mantel, along with all the carefully curated family pictures that had told such pretty lies. This is where it happened, I told Zuriel, standing in the dining room. Right here, every major family moment. Quentin's celebrations, my disappointments, all at this table. And now? Now it's just furniture. My phone rang. Gus. Heard the house sold. News travels fast. Got a minute? There's someone in my office you should meet. At Gus's firm, a young woman sat nervously in his waiting room. Early 20s, worn clothes, determined eyes. This is Maya, Gus introduced us. She needs a lawyer who understands family complications. Maya twisted her hands together. My parents. They always favored my sister. Now they're trying to take my inheritance from my grandmother, saying I'm not responsible enough. No one believes me, but I believe you, I said quietly. Her eyes filled with tears. You do? Yes, and I can help. Back at my office, Zuriel raised an eyebrow as I added Maya's file to my caseload. Taking on another family drama? Taking on another chance to make things right. My desk phone buzzed. Your mother's here. Mom looked smaller in my office now, less perfectly put together. I brought something, she said, placing a box on my desk. Inside were photos I'd never seen. Me at debate club competitions, graduation ceremonies, law school acceptance, pictures I thought no one had taken. I kept them, she said softly. I was proud, Avery. I didn't know how to show it without making Quentin feel less important, I finished. That was always the fear, wasn't it? That if you celebrated me, he'd fall apart? Yes. She touched one of the photos. I was wrong. Yes, you were. Can we can we try again? Not as mother and daughter maybe, but as people? I suggested. Who tell the truth? She nodded. Maybe, I said, but not today. After she left, I looked through the photos, remembering each moment, each achievement celebrated alone. My phone buzzed with a text from Kylie. Started my own consulting firm. Thank you for showing me how to stand alone. Another message popped up. Dad, Princess, the condo feels empty, but honest. First time in years, I'm not pretending. And finally, from an unknown number in Arizona. I hate you, but you were right. Q. Zoriel appeared in my doorway. Maya's case files are ready for review. Good. I stood up, leaving the box of photos on my desk. Let's get to work. You know, she said as we walked to the conference room, you never did answer if you got what you wanted. I thought about the sold house, the downsized parents, the brother facing consequences, the truth finally exposed. About Maya waiting for someone to believe her story. I got something better, I replied. I got free. The conference room was bright with morning sun. Maya sat straight backed, clutching her grandmother's will, ready to fight for her truth. I recognized that look, had worn it myself not so long ago. Okay, Maya, I said, opening her file. Tell me everything. This time, someone's listening. Behind her, through the window, I could just see the spire of the courthouse where my family's facade had finally cracked. But that wasn't my story anymore. My story was here. in this room helping another young woman find her voice. Start from the beginning, I told her, and don't leave anything out. The truth matters here. Maya took a deep breath and began to speak. I listened, knowing that sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's reconstruction, building something new from the ashes of what was lost. And sometimes that's enough.